Hello again, French 1. This is the last video for section 6.1, and it's all about a new type of regular verb that is IR verbs. So far this year, you've learned about ER verbs. Remember the song. You've also learned about RE verbs. Remember the sh song. We've also learned a couple of irregular verbs, which means you just have to memorize a verb chart, like the verb faire, or the verb aller, or the verb être, for example, or avoir, everybody's favorite, G-A-I-2-A-A-S. This is our last type of verb. So we have ER, RE, now IR, and then that huge group of irregular verbs. IR verbs, though, as I said, are the last group of regular verbs, so this note sheet's going to look very similar to your ER and RE verbs, and that whole idea of being a regular verb just means that it follows a pattern. So, first things first, just like always, when we start off with a regular type of verb, we need to talk about what an IR verb is, and I bet from your experience with ER and RE verbs, you can figure out that an IR verb is a verb or an action word that ends in the letters IR. Now, there's not a whole lot of these that we know so far, but we'll get some examples here in just a bit, so trust me for a bit. Why do we have to change the endings on all verbs, and in this case specifically IR verbs? Because verbs have to agree with the subject of their sentence. If you don't change the ending, you walk around talking like Tarzan and say things like I to eat a hamburger instead of I'm eating or I eat a hamburger. Because you have to make the ending change agree with whatever the subject is to make it all kind of make sense and sync up, you have to know what your subject pronouns are. So, for about the millionth time this year, the subject pronouns are je, which is I, tu, which is you, il and elle, he and she, nous, which is we, vous, which is either y'all, as in you plural, or you formal. Remember that very special talk you would use with somebody such as Dr. Kelly or President Obama. And finally, ils and elles, il and elle with the s at the end, are both they. So here's the big thing, and this is probably the most important bullet point. How do you actually change the ending of an IR verb? Well, it actually works a lot like ER and RE verbs in that it's a two-step process. The first step is to drop off the IR. Again, not unlike those other two types of verbs. And then guess what, guys? We have another set of endings. So these are your IR endings. At this point in French 1, it's one of those moments where on one hand, this is going to seem very normal and it's going to seem very logical and most people get how to do this. On the other hand, it's a third set of endings that you have to know in addition to those other two that are regular verbs and the irregular verbs. So stuff can start to get muddled at this point in time. But either way, these are the endings that we're going to focus on for the IR verbs, which is the focus of this section. Your IR endings are IS, IS, IT, as in the je form is IS, the tu form is IS, and the il form is IT. Over on the right-hand side of your verb chart, you have ISSONS for the nous form, ISSEZ for the vous form, and ISSENT for the ils and elles form. So real quick, right off the bat, we're going to be giving you a sample of an IR verb. In this case, I'm using the verb finir, which is the verb for to finish. You can see on the chart here, I've got the endings underlined and in bold, and that's just to show you that basically what I've done in each case is dropped off the IR and added the appropriate ending based on the subject. Now, I haven't written in the English ending, so if you want to add them in now, I'm going to give them to you verbally. You're welcome to add them in. So on the je form, I dropped the IR. I added the je ending, which is IS, and I get je finis, which means I finish or I am finishing. Present tense is funny like that in French. It has two meanings. For the tu form, again, I dropped the IR, and I added the tu ending, which is IS again. So tu finis is you finish or you are finishing. For the il form, I drop the IR, I add that ending, which is IT, and I get il or elle fini. And again, that means he or she finishes or he or she is finishing. For the nous form, drop the IR, add ISSONS. Nous finissons means we finish or we are finishing. For the vous form, drop the IR, add ISSEZ. You end up with vous finissez, which is y'all finish or y'all are finishing. And then finally, for the ils and elles, you get il or elle finissent. is how it's pronounced. And that would be the combination of dropping the IR and adding ISSENT to that ending. Now, just like our ER verbs and our RE verbs, I have a wonderfully cheesy song to help you remember these. It's actually to the tune of the Mexican hat dance, which I realize is very strange being that this is a French class and French is not the primary language of Mexico, but either way, the endings fit to the song and the tune. You might recognize the tune once I start singing it, or you may not because my singing's not so great. But either way, this is just one method for memorizing your endings. You know, as always, that I always sing the endings using the French letters, so I want to remind you that in French, the letter I is pronounced E. So I haven't gone off my rocker and I'm not giving you the wrong endings. If you want to practice it by singing it as ISISIT, you're welcome to do that, and in fact, I've got a video for you here in just a second that will help you do that. But being that I'm the French teacher, I like to do it the French way. Again, remember these are just the endings in order, and by in order I mean the order in which you would put them in on our verb chart, starting with the je, tu, il, elle, then the nous, vous, ils, elles forms. It's not something deep and profound, it's just obnoxious, so hopefully it'll get stuck in your head. So without further ado, here's the tune. It goes, yes, yes, ite. ESSONS, ESSOZ, ESSONT. If you heard it? If not, I'm sure it will haunt you now, being that that is not the best and most in-tune rendition. Either way, like I said, it's one technique. Figure out what you need to get your endings memorized. So what are some other IR verbs that you could apply this awesome song and this awesome technique to? Well, let me give you a few. Réussir is the verb for to pass something like a test or a quiz, or to succeed on something, kind of the same idea. Choisir is to choose. That comes up a lot in this chapter because you can choisir certain foods at breakfast and things like that. Grossir is the verb for to gain weight. You'll notice it's got the word gros in it, which of course you'll remember from an earlier chapter means fat. So you're getting fat whenever you grossir or you gain weight. Again, this comes up in this chapter because they'll talk about certain foods may make you grossir, gain weight. Grandir is another IR verb. It's got the word grand in it, and if you remember, grand means tall. So when you grandir, you get tall, as in you grow up. Again, they'll talk about foods that you need to be eating as far as healthy foods that will help you grow up big and strong and all that. Maigrir is the opposite of grossir. Maigrir is to lose weight. Again, with the food chapter, you can talk about healthy foods being low calorie and things that would help you lose weight. And on a totally unrelated topic, punir. Punir is the word for to punish. Really has nothing to do with food, but it is indeed an IR verb, and you can now conjugate it. So, at this point in time, you're faced with 4 practice, not even activities, questions, just to help you practice dropping the EIR and adding the right endings. Again, it would be awesome if you could come to class with these completed so that you can immediately get into talking about it with your classmates and the people at your table and see what they got for their answers. And if you couldn't confirm an answer with somebody else, you could, of course, call me over and I can help you out. One other little thing you may want to try to do is there is a YouTube video in which somebody sings the IR verb song that I just sang you, and they actually remix it. If you want to search for it, it's under Conjugating IR Verbs Remix. I've got the actual address here on the slide, but of course it's a lot of series of letters and numbers, so if you just want to kind of search for Conjugating IR Verbs Remix, I think it'll come right up. Again, that's just something you can do that might be a little bit helpful if you want some more practice with that IR verb song and memorizing those endings. That's it for your IR verbs video. Make sure you bring this notes sheet back with you to class next class, and hopefully you enjoyed it.